In this video, we are going to look into globalization and its economic impact in Singapore. So who knows what is globalization?
I do. Globalization is a process where regional economies, societies, and ways of life have become more integrated and interconnected through a worldwide network of international trade, investment, and information technology. Economic globalization is national and international economies joining together through trade, foreign direct investment, capital flows, migration, and the spreading of technology.
So why should we know about globalization?
It is a key driving force to the economy worldwide and is a common phenomenon.
Then how does globalization got to do with Singapore?
Singapore is an open economy. It is heavily reliant on trade and foreign direct investment. Adding on, Singapore is a highly trade-dependent economy with the highest trade to GDP ratio in the world. Not only are we heavily reliant on imports as our source of food, energy, and industrial raw materials, our small domestic market also means that our industries must rely on overseas export markets. Furthermore, trade activities have historically been and will continue to be an important source of economic wealth for the country.
Okay, so what are the examples of globalization?
One example is the Free Trade Area (FTA). It is a legally binding agreement among two or more countries to reduce barriers to trade among themselves. It causes a decline in prices of our exports and permits our exports to get a competitive edge. One example is the ASEAN Free Trade Area (AFTA). It was launched to set up in 1992 and signed by Singapore in January 1993. As of 2009, there are 10 Southeast Asian countries under this FTA. The aim is to cut down tariffs in goods and services exchanged between the various AFTA countries to below 5% within 15 years.
Now I know what globalization is. Are there any benefits?
Of course, there are benefits. For example, the FTAs encourage trade and cause Singapore to have positive net export, a component of the aggregate demand. Assuming
But what is AD?
you don't know, well, AD is the total demand by households, firms, government, and various foreign sectors for the final goods and services that are produced in the Singapore economy at various price levels, ceteris paribus.
I see.
So, assuming the other components of AD to remain constant, an increase in net export would mean a rise in AD. Through the multiplier process, this would cause an increase in national income. This rise would benefit the country as it means more expenditure for the government to spend on public welfare, such as education, health, defense, and transportation. This brings us to the second benefit. People like you and me would enjoy a higher standard of living. The World Bank's social and economic indicators have shown that Singapore enjoys a general upward trend for standard of living over the years.
Oh,
Thirdly, there is greater access to goods from abroad. Now we can buy foreign as well as local products. We no longer need to go to Australia for chocolates. This leads to a higher quality of life and consumption of goods and services will increase. This will cause the demand for goods and services to increase and aggregate supply to
what is AS?
stop interrupting me.
But I don't know what AS is.
Let me explain to you. AS is the sum of total output that firms in the economy are willing and able to supply at different price levels in a given time period.
Oh,
As demand increases, AS would rise to meet this increase in AD. The productivity of this country increases, and there will be more job opportunities and national output. See, free trade benefits the public like you and me and Singapore.
wow, isn't that good?
Let me continue. Of course, there are drawbacks. Like a double-edged sword, free trade has problems too. We, the domestic consumers, are at a disadvantage because we buy goods at a higher price. Trade pushes the price of Singapore goods consistently. Since free trade has little government intervention, Singapore's economy can be easily affected by the economy of our trading partners.
Oh, now I know what trade is about. But is it the only way to illustrate globalization?
There's another way, which is FDI.
So, what is FDI?
I'm not very sure how FDI works. I think my friend knows better. Why don't you ask her?
Foreign direct investment (FDI) is any form of investment that generates interest in enterprises which function outside of the domestic territory of the investor. I see. The stock of FDI in Singapore stood at 470 billion as at end 2008. United States and United Kingdom both have 52 billion and were the top two investor countries. Is there only one type of FDI? Of course not. There are actually two types of FDI, the outward bound and inward FDI. Outward bound FDI is supported by the government against all kinds of related risks. This form of FDI is subjected to tax incentives and disincentives. Inward FDIs are encouraged by various economic factors. These include interest loans, tax breaks, grants, subsidies, and the removal of restriction and limitation. But what does FDI got to do with Singapore? Oh, and what are the benefits? Singapore's government policies were amended to attract transnational corporations (TNCs) to establish manufacturing facilities in Singapore. Singapore used incentives to encourage TNCs to invest in the local economy and use local skilled Singaporeans so that there will be increase in employment and transfer of foreign technology to the locals. With the transference of technology to Singaporeans, more Singaporeans would possess the necessary skills to work. This would also improve the quality of goods produced in Singapore, and thus our price of exports would increase. With the strong initial economic base and abundance of capital and skills of TNCs, Singapore can gain substantial benefits from their technological leadership. Foreign direct investment can help create new jobs in Singapore. By creating more jobs in Singapore, it increases the total output of Singapore's economy, and thus increase the national income of Singapore. With more employment opportunities and the increase in income for Singaporeans, it will lead to higher economic growth. There would be a higher real income per capita, higher disposable income, leading to higher level of consumption of goods and services. When demand for goods and services increase, demand for labor will increase so as to offset the goods and services demanded, generating more employment opportunities to expand Singapore's economy. Also, FDI promotes long-term economic growth. Singapore, with limited land and resources, invests in nearby countries with abundant land and low labor costs. The government and Singapore-based companies provide capitals and expertise to develop industrial parks in other countries such as Bangalore, India. By doing so, Singapore-based companies can generate more wealth for Singapore's economy and also helps to publicize Singapore in these countries. These investments ensure a long-term growth for Singapore-based companies. FDI sounds like it is a very good illustration, but are you sure there are no drawbacks? There are. Countries will face more intense competitions as TNC seeks out new locations for lower cost of production. Thus, governments compete with one another to attract these corporations to invest in their countries. With increased competition, it will be harder for Singapore to gain foreign investment. A reduction of the investment levels would result in a decrease in AD and tariff payables. National output of the country would fall too. This would decrease the economic activity of Singapore. Is this the end? Yes. Oh wow, okay. So this podcast is brought to you by Hui Qing, Hui Ling, Xiao Lei, and Colgate. Thank you for listening.